Part of My Mind with Rachel and Hiiro.
Yes, good morning. You look like, well, you're not too young to remember Ghostbusters, like the original.
No, no, not at all.
The green in the background reminds me of Slimer.
Oh yeah, totally. Do you like it? I guess it's kind of funny that it's October nearing Halloween too.
Yeah,
And we're
yes,
all in that
agreed.
mindset.
Agreed. You're
Um,
very colorful. I like it. I like the pink against or is it purple? Pinkish purple.
Pinkish purple. Yeah.
Fuchsia
Yes.
against the green.
It's
Yeah.
like a purple highlighter.
Yeah, kind of. And then the green's like a green highlighter.
Yes, it is. So we are
Look at
highlighting.
you.
We are highlighting this morning.
Oh, yes. Yes, this is true. On a weekend, good
I
old
know.
weekend recordings.
Yes,
How was your
indeed.
week
Well,
without
I'm
going actually, and I just asked you this is how I'm so bad. Okay, let's ask you a question, Rachel, and then just answer it for the person. Yeah, okay, that's lovely. But then I just thought about asking you about because Hero actually recently had gum grafting surgery.
I
And
sure did.
but like I don't see swelling, I don't see, I mean, that was like a week ago now, but
No, I mean, again, we could put a trigger warning if you want to see the process of the healing, but I probably won't do that here.
no, please don't. I'm good. I'm good.
Of all
Description's all
people.
right sometimes, but
So basically, for the folks that don't know what gum grafting is, it's basically when your gum lines recede to the point of the risk of you losing your tooth permanently. So,
pause.
yeah. So sometimes it can be done from aggressive brushing over time, but in my case, I thought it was that, and my hygienist said, actually, this is a hygienist that was covering my normal one, so I'm happy they did. They said, no, it's because of your braces over time and how they positioned and how they shifted your teeth. And it's been coming up a lot, she was saying, in
Mm-hmm.
anyone that's in the millennial generation specifically,
Interesting.
which is why it's increasing more and more in people who are in the ages right now between like mid 20s up to early to mid 30s, which is so
I know in
fascinating.
my age too, like 40. I also have I don't I yeah, anyway, we'll spare the details of my story with that, but yes, that's
So
true.
anyway,
Yeah.
long story short, I had to wait a couple months to get the surgery done, and now that I've had it done, I'm about 8, 9 days post operation,
Mm-hmm.
and the operation sucked, and I'll leave it at that. I had to be
Yeah.
awake during it. Well,
Oh,
basically, they take the additional tissue from the roof of the mouth and apply it to the areas in the gum line of the teeth that need it, and then you have to wait a couple weeks for it to heal, meaning that I've been on liquids and soft foods, which
yeah.
surprisingly, um, that's primarily what I eat anyway. What I've had to remove from my diet is like my daily granola, which is a huge staple in my diet once or twice a day. So that's been interesting, not having as many grains in my system.
Do you feel less
Um,
bloated because of that? Because that's something that I actually took out of my diet was like cereals and grains. Like I eat grains in different ways, but I don't do like I did what you did for a long time. And I'm just curious because for me, like when I eliminated that, I didn't feel like
hmm.
pregnant every day.
Yeah, no, fair. I think I don't know if I've lost weight. Uh,
Mm,
I feel a little bit lighter, perhaps, but
hmm.
not enough difference to make me be persuaded to not consume one of my staples in my diet.
Fair. Yeah. I was just
I'm
curious. Yeah.
I'm still doing like gluten-free bread that has minimal grains in it and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But anyway, point being is that I'm doing okay, and my checkup is going to be next Friday to be cleared to exercise, which again I've been walking, which is fine, but started as going to yoga classes even like in
What is
the
that reason though? Exercise from a surgery in the mouth?
So it's
I
anything
didn't.
that can increase blood flow to the mouth. So does it
Oh,
matter?
interesting.
Because no matter where we are in the body, if we increase our heart rate, it's going to
Didn't
increase
think
our blood
about that.
flow.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just in terms of your head below your heart. They were like, no, don't do anything that can increase your blood flow to your head.
Interesting.
So even like
Okay.
sleeping position, it had to be adjusted. So I, for the first
Wow.
5 nights, I was sitting upright. Now I'm sitting a little bit, lying down a little bit lower or a little bit
Yeah,
on my
yeah.
side. Anyway,
Anyway, yeah.
that's the gist, folks. You're probably snoring by this point and hoping your teeth never have to go through that. Or you've had it done before and you're like, I've been there, girl. I've been there.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
twice. So
Oh, well, I'm glad that you're definitely on the mend. That's awesome. And I know that we probably maybe couldn't have done this recording last week, but
not at all.
This is great.
Yeah.
So I'm glad about that. What were we? I was like, what was our topic for today?
Well, like kind of like last week, Rachel and I are going to start recording kind of two different topics in one discussion that kind of blend together, and contrasting the kind of like the weaves that they take together. That was kind of my weaving gesture.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to dive into is the noticing of increase of emotional unavailability in society and in humans, and not as a blanket statement because it's not everybody. I have tons of people in my life that are my close friends, family, or that feel like family. But I do find that there is a lack of emotional transparency, vulnerability, and sincerity, or even awareness in people. Why? I don't know. I know I've always...
I'm curious, like what, because you were like, so when I asked you, when we talked about topic, you were so quick to respond with that topic. I guess my question for you is there something that happened in your life more recently that made you want to talk about this?
Yeah, well, I think...
mind me asking. Yeah.
Well, I think it also ties in with your discussion, your subject, which is about kind of like the whole, dare we call it a fad, perhaps, or a movement, or a trend?
Yeah.
This whole term of people feeling like they're awakened or woke.
And
that's not just Gen Z or millennial. It's anybody that feels they're doing the work to awaken their knowledge of something or feel more worldly, especially when it comes to self-awareness or emotional and spiritual practices. And I think that ties into the emotional availability, or gaslighting in some ways. Even if it's not a verbal gaslight, it could even be not responding or not knowing how to respond to something in terms of gaslighting. How I might be feeling, how I might be experiencing things, how I might be looking at things from a different perspective that is different from the mainstream or the masses, which has always been my life. But I do notice it a lot in discussions I have with people, or in terms of like getting beyond the small talk, getting into the real experiences that we go through in life, and how not everybody either wants to talk about those things, which is fine, but I guess it's like an elevated superficiality of people not being able to relate, or not wanting to relate to people like myself, who wear their heart on their sleeve, that maybe are a little less cryptic and mysterious, which has always been, if you ask my dad, that's been his consistent feedback to me, is, be more mysterious, be less, heart open all the time. And I'm like, I can't be that way.
Or keep some things to yourself as... And I understand that, because I've been told that a lot during my life from different people too, right? 100%, which has caused me, I don't know if you feel this way or have done this before, but when I get some of that feedback, then sometimes it forces me, not forces me, but it makes me go back into my shell, like the opposite.
Yeah.
So then I actually stop communicating. Right. So I also wonder if people, speaking of this movement of I'll say wokeness or whatnot, if people are, just because there's such a backlash now against that the extreme woke kind of mentality, or people that are really out there preaching and stuff like that, that perhaps because there's a backlash against that people are now doing exactly what I just said, are going the opposite way, and they're actually freezing. Right? Because they don't want any kind of criticism or backlash, and they're afraid because everything is so aired out in the open these days too with social media. So perhaps maybe you're experiencing, I'm just guessing, that people perhaps are seeing this, and they they don't want that reaction.
Right.
So they're keeping their cards closer to their chests, which is so interesting because we entered into this era of like, you know, being more open about mental health and being more open about our feelings and being more, you know, confident and comfortable and all that kind of stuff. But now we've gone into the extreme, and that's what I was talking about in my text to you yesterday. We've gone to the extreme one way where it's like, okay, well, what is too much? Is it too much now that people are getting scared to say or speak up because they know now that there's a backlash against that extreme?
Yeah.
And I hate using these buzzwords, or I'm not like somebody who likes to use trendy words, but that woke
Rachel
culture.
isn't a CNN news agent.
No, but I do watch it sometimes. and just to kind of go back for a sec, I was looking at the actual, you know, sort of Webster's dictionary. Oh, I just got a frog in my throat. Excuse me. It's very dry up here right now. The definition of woke is actually being aware and actively attentive to important facts and issues, but especially issues of racial and social justice.
Right.
So, okay, sorry guys, I don't know what just happened there. I just got totally dry throat. Yeah. So it's interesting that actually is the definition is specifically when it comes to racial and social justices.
Yeah.
To be active, and that's incredibly important. But I think now we've blanketed that term to encompass, like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Does that kind of make sense? Like now we've opened up the term woke to encompass like
anything that you are taking a stand against, basically.
Yeah, like anything
activism.
and everything. Yeah, that's the almost the extreme of being extreme liberal.
Yeah, I think
that's so. On the far one side, right? And so we've taken this definition, we've like, and you know, and apparently this woke has been used, I didn't realize this, for like at least 13-14 years. What they say kind of first came about in like 2010, which I thought it's only been like, I only really heard that term for the past maybe 2 years, a couple of years. I feel like since COVID perhaps, but anyway.
Right. No, I mean, that's fair, but I think also it's a fine line because you don't know what someone's experience is from when they're sharing an experience, unless that they actually show you, tell you the fact, you know, fact check what they're saying. I mean, who am I to say what someone is sharing or saying is other than taking it at face value from what they say? You know, that's how I try to look at it. And if I see otherwise, then sure. But if I don't, then I am not going to question it. That's my my goodwill or my conscience, I guess. But I'm like, not putting myself on a pedestal. I go through shit every day. I've been through a lot of shit. I also have tons of privilege in ways that many others people don't, and I'm very well aware of it. And I also therefore don't broadcast it or showcase it or anything like that. But the stuff that I have had a disadvantage or a challenge with are now the things that I own and that I so-called preach, that I live by in my actions, my words, my how I show up in my daily life, in any setting I surround myself in. And so sometimes I think, as you were saying, it goes all the way back from when I was a teenager and then when I so-called came out. And I felt so assured and self-assured in myself. And then I've given this metaphor before: you come up and you're ready and the curtain's open, but no one's in the audience.
I don't think I've ever heard you say that in those words.
Only once, I think. But yeah,
I've never heard you,
that's constantly how I have felt in my entire life. And even
that's
to this
a really interesting. Yeah, say that again, because I like that.
A metaphor for my life is being on stage after all of the prep, rehearsal, and all of the
lead up,
metamorphosis that I have been through. And constantly the curtain, when I'm ready for the spotlight on me to share and give back, and the curtain opens, there's nobody in the audience.
Wow. That's profound. That's really and is that something that's a metaphor, that's something you've, like you just said, it's something you've really felt your whole life?
Yeah, I feel it every day. I feel constantly like I'm an alien. I feel constantly that I don't belong. I feel constantly that I'm not good enough for my profession as a yoga teacher. Every time I come in the teacher class, I constantly feel like when I come into a work environment that I never feel like that I'm enough, or that I'm seen or recognized or appreciated by people. Even though I do all the things
Mhm.
I'm saying from others, I therefore take into myself, because I have to be my own cheerleader and advocate, because no one's going to do that for me. And this is not a pity story. This is just my reality. This is how I look at the world. I constantly feel like I am on my own. And though I have strong friendships and I love the people in my life, I think a lot of it comes from losing my brother and that stigma of abandonment, of things you know that you will never get back once they're gone. And so there's this
Mm.
complex in my brain that comes from that, which then threads back into emotional availability, emotional awareness. Because in some ways, you might think, well, then why would you be so emotionally available when you know that everything around you is just going to go away and you know
It's
that it's only
temporary.
temporary?
Yeah.
I forced myself to take the opposite approach, because I need to live and feel and be present as much as I can, despite my brain being so always ruminating in the past, ruminating in the future, not
Mm-hmm.
always in this present moment.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting when you start to think about the layers of mental health. And now for me, with being neurodivergent and with autism and nonverbal learning disabilities, and how much work I've done on myself to become adept and agile with society, to match people where they're at. I think I've said this recently. I'm always thinking about, I want to treat people how I would want to be treated. No, I'm treating people how they want to be treated. So if they're not coming, if I'm being myself and they're not picking it up, I'm meeting them at their space. If they don't want to be
Mm.
talked to, I'm not talking to them. If they don't want to be acknowledged, I'm not acknowledging them. That's their shit, not mine.
That's a really good point.
Because
Yeah.
I'm not going to take
Yeah.
on someone's shit, even if I might
No.
deal with the energy. And I do, because you and I are both empaths.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
But I can still feel someone's energy. And yes, it might affect me, thinking it has something to do with me. But I remind myself, whether it has something to do with me or not, I don't give a fuck. It's their issue. And I'm not going to take their shit on, because I got my own shit to deal with, just like they have their own shit to deal with.
Yeah.
So the more that I stop caring, which sounds horrible to say, the more that I'm going to actually manage to get through each day of my life.
I think, and I don't know if that's like that you're not necessarily, and I know what you're saying. First of all, I hear you and I know what you're saying 100%. I just feel like I th- what you're describing, it sounds like you're actually so much more in tune than you give yourself credit for. And I think you need to give yourself credit for the fact that you are like, most people can't do what you just said about understanding where somebody else is at. And instead of, not just treating them, but reacting to them the way you would want to be treated, or based on your experiences, your past experiences, or whatever it is, but to listen to them and then react to how you feel, how they perhaps feel like they need in the moment to be reacted to or communicated with.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
that's not an easy thing to do, and I think most people can't do that, because most people are still in their heads and are, listen to their ego,
Yeah.
and can't really absorb somebody else and feel that. So, but that also takes a lot of energy, a heck
Mm-hmm.
of a lot of energy. So anyway, I just want to applaud you for that, because I think that that's not an easy thing to do, especially when you're talking about neurodivergent and those kinds of things, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but like even with mild autism, or however you want to put it, typically it's more difficult to understand somebody else's emotions
Mm-hmm.
or social in the environment. And so it sounds like you actually are quite aware of those things and how people are reacting, and trying to make them, for a lack of a better word, but make them feel more comfortable with how you react to them based on how you feel that they are feeling. That sounds so complicated.
No, but what you're saying is, to me at least, makes total sense,
Yeah.
and it's an accurate statement, because keeping in mind, the key thing is that I had to manually learn how to do that.
Right.
I didn't
Right.
pick
It's
that
not
up
an
from
automatic.
society.
Yeah.
I didn't pick that up from my surroundings. I didn't pick that up from my peers. Over time, once I knew what to look for, then I did. And I learned, but therefore I was very much a late bloomer in a lot of ways. And, people are like, oh, you don't call, old souls don't call themselves old souls. My dad will always say, like, you're not an old soul. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to argue with you. That again, I'm not going to argue with you. I don't care. Whatever your opinion is your opinion. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. That's fine. You're entitled to it. I've grown up from that and I can move past that. But I'm an old soul. And as far as looking at everyone else, I feel that a lot of people are not. And I can see, no matter if the person is in their teenage era right now, if they're in their early 20s, there are people that I come across and I can tell that they're from the same cloth, and the immediate connection and comfort there is with those people and the emotional vulnerability they have, whether their parents were like that, so they adapted and adopted, or they had it on their own and it wasn't from how they were brought up. It gives me hope to know that there is a smaller percentile of people that are like me who might be 10 years younger, 15 years younger, 3 years older, 5 years older, 10 years older, who are out there. And it's getting easier and easier and easier for me to spot those people and then to focus my energy on them and see if there's further alignment. And if there isn't, then at least there's a baseline of I understand you, I get you. If you need something, I'm there. Even if our lifestyles or hobbies or interests or ways of thinking or ideologies are different, there's a baseline. So that's what I'm getting at, is that I feel that the baseline, whether if it's in certain settings when it comes to being around people for several hours a day, if it's in the setting of being in a yoga studio environment, depending on the environment, because every environment is so different, every class is different. But I'm noticing this big shift. And so again, when you're saying this thing about people being woke, and they're like, I'm going to yoga, I'm going to mindfulness, I'm going to cold plunges, I'm going to sound baths, or whatever, these trendy things that have been around for centuries that only people are figuring out that they want to do now. Again, who am I to place judgment? It's better that they're doing it and than not at all, and that they eventually might find a path that is their own path. And I realize maybe how I might come off to some people when I'm saying could seem like it's like the opposite. I'm trying to make a point, and maybe people could perceive this as, yeah, you're trying to make a point, but you're no better. You're not. You're actually you're doing yourself a disservice by sharing those thoughts. But you know what? No, but like the things that I've just talked about.
Okay, but then you know what I thought you were gonna say, and this is just what maybe this is just what I feel is, I feel like, but perhaps people are coming to these things for the wrong reasons, which could be but hopefully they'll end up sticking with them for the right reasons. So coming to them for the reasons of the trend, of it being trendy, of all those kinds of things that, just for an Instagram photo, like those kinds of things. But then hopefully sticking with it for the right reasons, because it actually does shift something.
Well, yeah, and that's the difference between a trend and a behavioral change.
Yeah.
Because trends do come and go. Same with fashion and style. If you want to be super materialistic, trends are going to come and go, and they come quickly. As you work with some fashion and retail like I do. Some trends can be like 4 or 6 weeks, and before you know it, they're gone.
Yeah.
The stuff that sticks and that stays, like that's your core collection. Whether if it's like black and white because they're always needed, or it's because it's a simple t-shirt. In our society, everyone wears a white t-shirt of some kind, so it's never going to go anywhere.
No, or if
color
it's
might
something
change or whatever, but
like, and Hiro's just talking because I work in marketing and digital online advertising. But yeah, I mean, one of our clients, I mean, it has to do with a very it's a supplement company. I was trying to say though, like it's not just like a passe kind of supplement company. I can't really say who it is necessarily, but something that isn't just a trend. It actually is helping people, and it will continue to help people. But what I was going to say is just back to the first kind of point when we were initially talking about how people are reacting these days to wokeness, and maybe the extreme, just getting tired of the extreme one-sidedness of it, like going all the way to one end. That's something that I'm noticing. I'm noticing that people are they're so tired of seeing these people who are preaching such an extreme of being woke and wanting everyone to be, equal and this and that those people are actually getting so overly frustrated and annoyed with it that they're lashing out, and there's like an intense anger, judgment, and they're actually reacting in the complete opposite ways. There's no like middle ground.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm seeing a lot of that, which is disheartening, but I also understand in a way. I don't really know, and I don't really know what the answer is, and I also don't know, for yourself and the experiences that you're going through, like how do you stop feeling alone?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry that you do feel like that a lot, you were saying,
Mm-hmm.
or not understood.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting, it's that first and foremost, before I speak my point about it, are there any, again, you and I intentionally are trying to be respectful and cryptic, and also, but are there any age demographics or certain platforms of news and content where you're noticing this behavior? Because you also come from right now a smaller community, you come from a smaller town. So are the examples that you're thinking of in your mind, even if you don't share them, are they from what you see on like TikTok or Instagram or certain websites or certain YouTube shows or certain podcasts you might listen to? Or
Oh
like,
yeah, like I actually kind of a bit of everything, to be honest. I'm seeing it in my everyday life with certain people that I actually interact with or see. I'm seeing it on, I mean, it's kind of an obvious statement, I guess, to see it on things like Bill Maher, like certain late night, talk show, those kinds of things, all over the place, to be honest. Yeah.
yeah,
What is
yeah.
your look on your face?
Because I'm thinking about
I'm
the
also I also am being a bit cryptic here. I understand that about when I say, yeah.
because I'm thinking as you're speaking about it, I'm thinking like there are, what would you do, what would you do about it, I guess? Like there's not much you can do because it's from outside of your own actions in terms of like
Oh, you're turning the tables. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's important for those listening to understand, cool, it's cool to talk about something, but if you were to do something about it, is there anything you would do and why?
Right. And that's what I asked you too. Like what would yeah, both of us, what would we do to feel a little less I guess alone and isolated?
Yeah.
I think talking to each other, talking and finding those people that you realize are quite aligned with you. And listen, you don't need to have an army of people, a huge group of people that to surround yourself with. If it's just one person, one person that really gets you. And I'm lucky, I'm very blessed in my life to have, I would say at least three core people, like four core people that I feel are really aligned with me, get me, and don't, really, for a lack of better words, judge me and start to get on my case about certain things, that really listen. And I think that there's a misconception out there, perhaps again with social media and like how many followers you have and how many this and that it should be like dozens and dozens of people in your community. No, I mean one person, and focus
Mm-hmm.
on that, and not to put all the pressure on that one person, because now I realize what I'm saying is like maybe that person would start to feel a lot of pressure of being like, oh, Rachel only really relies on, she just has me, oh my god, like that's a
Right.
lot of pressure.
Right.
That's not really what I mean. It's just just to realize that as I get older too, I start to realize this, that even if you have just one or two core friends, and you can have like a bunch of acquaintances and people that it's
Sure.
okay, that's okay too.
Yeah.
Actually that's probably even better, because that those people, you don't necessarily have to feel like you need to tell them every last detail of your life. But if
Mm-hmm.
there is just the one or two core people in your life that are those people that really get you, that's all you can really ask for, and that's wonderful. So
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. No, I mean, good point. It's a balance of making sure you take your own accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm noticing those in terms of my own personal development in the last year or so, and returning to working and being around so many unique perspectives and diverse insights of how people come to the same space that we're all in. It's really cool because, you meet people from that live here, that are from other countries, that are from other continents even, and that might be from Gen Z, Gen Alpha, even, like, my cousin's age, that are now getting into the
What
working
age is
age.
that?
Gen
Is that
Alpha is,
teenagers, like right
yeah,
now, current
yeah,
teenagers?
yeah,
Okay,
like
okay,
high
okay,
schoolers
okay.
basically.
Actually, I was thinking about, okay, and that could be a whole other topic for another time, because
Yeah,
I've also heard that Gen Alpha kind of sort of mirrors more of Gen Z,
yes, yes.
right?
Well,
Like they're kind of like that. No, Gen X. Sorry,
Gen
Gen
X.
X.
Hmm.
Sorry,
Yep,
folks. Yeah, yeah.
yep, yep. So yeah, I getting learning from these different perspectives, hearing these different perspectives, it's really phenomenal because that's what I love about being around other people, even though they exhaust me, and I probably more than exhaust them. I mean, it's a shared effort. There's the ability, there's the
I
ability
get it.
to be open and to receive so many different ways of thinking. And when you release judgment and you release the need to even like project your feelings or thoughts for whatever
Mm.
reason, which I don't, um, you just get to be a sponge. And then you get to share what you want to share and know that if it lands, it does. And if it doesn't, at least you feel like you're able to share it whatever way you want to, in your actions, words, in person or digital. Like, there have been so many things that I've done in the last few months that I've really come into myself. I mean, like, since we started podcasting and recording a few years ago, I think for yourself too. I think for myself, I feel so sure of myself, despite all the other contradictory statements I might have said prior to saying this that might, be a juxtaposition to that. I feel very sure of myself. And I think some people might think, okay, then Hero doesn't need external validation from others. That's not the case at all, though. In
I don't know
fact,
anyone who doesn't need a bit of that. Like, I'm sorry, if you're human, and I know I just kiboshed what you're about to say, but like, but I really believe that I don't think that anyone can say that for certain 100%, because we are human beings that interact with each other, and we're
yeah,
social creatures, and that's just a part of it. But if you're living your life to only seek validation from
yes.
others, then that's an issue. That's another thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I'm just thinking, like, I feel that validation from my friends, from my peers. I feel that validation from the way that I teach a class and how I see it, how the way that people feel after.
Yeah.
It's not something that I seek, but in some ways it is something that I seek. It's
Yeah.
an interesting kind of complex, I guess, and I think you can feel the same way. And also, I think it depends on our love languages too, because if people are verbally inclined and received by communication, and the people that they might surround themselves with are not communication based people in terms of how they express how they feel, you're missing all the other ways that people express how they show their appreciation to you. Is it in the way of their actions? Is it in the way of their um maybe their material, but their materialistic intentions are intentional, so it's not materialistic to them giving you something that's an object. All
Oh
these other
yeah.
things are just so fascinating, because that's how, again, it's like, it comes back to, just because I express myself in a certain way to other people, that doesn't mean that's how they receive certain languages the same way. And in
Yeah.
return, if you feel someone else is not receiving that, then you feel like that they don't appreciate you.
Oh yeah. And one thing yeah, absolutely. And I feel like we're starting to kind of wrap up this conversation on a positive note, which is good. I just wanted to say, because while you were talking, I was listening, and then that word listen reminded me that I feel like people, I'm laughing because I just caught myself saying feel. So this is something that's a whole, we can talk about this in another episode. My husband gets he gets annoyed because I say feel all the time. Like, I'm like, I feel like this, I feel like that. He's like, is that a feeling or are you thinking this? And that's something that I say a lot. And we can talk about that in another episode, but I think that people have lost the ability to listen because we're so used to, and again, I'm just going to throw again, because social media basically is one of our other languages these days, social media, internet, whatever you want to say, because we're so used to knowing that we can comment on everything that, and I have this issue too, where I'm just waiting to comment because I have something to say or because I get excited about something you're saying. And that is why I sometimes will interrupt, not just because I get so stoked about something that you said. And I'm like, oh yeah. But I think that a lot of us have lost the ability to listen because we know that with how we can comment on posts, on YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff, that we're just waiting for us to be able to get our 2 cents in because we know we can. So all we're doing is waiting to jump in to comment, but are we actually just like sitting back and listening?
Right.
And that's why I actually love when certain posts and stuff, people have turned off the comment section where you can't comment.
Right. Yep.
I really wonder if those types of posts or videos or whatnot actually allow people to sink deeper into the message and how they actually are receiving that message more than if they had the ability to comment right away. And then because like, hey, how many times, for example, like you watch a YouTube video, and I do this a lot, where you're watching and then you're noticing something someone has said and you're like, oh my God, I wonder if somebody's commented about that and what they've said about it. And then all you're doing now is reading the comment section of the video, but you're not even watching the video anymore.
That's true. Attention
oh my
span.
gosh, you're not even watching the video anymore. You're not even listening. And all you're doing is watching or reading other people's reactions or their opinions to somebody else's story or experience or whatever it may be. So you've completely now lost the original narrative.
Yeah.
Completely. And now you're not even forming decisions based on yourself. You're forming opinions, decisions based on all the other comments and all the other people.
Yep.
Holy moly. Like that's exhausting.
No, it is exhausting. And
so I don't know. Yeah. I, again, don't know the what we could, I don't really know what we could do about that. I mean, perhaps try if you can to just watch a full video or watch, a full thing without looking at the comment section right away and seeing if you can practice listening.
Yeah. I mean, that's again that idea that on YouTube they'll have those videos of this generation or this kind of group of people watching and reacting to blank.
Oh, geez.
Like you'll have, like for example, like you'll have people that are in our generation or you have people that are again Gen Z or Gen Alpha, but there are lots of these videos on YouTube that they'll be like Gen Z reacts to the first cell phone.
Oh,
that
that's
kind of
what you
idea.
mean. Okay.
Because it's all reaction based as opposed to like watching what you're watching the reaction, but like that again, are you able to just watch the video or are you going to want to see what others' reactions are to their reaction?
Oh my goodness.
All that type of stuff. It's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, it is. It is. So on that note, people, thank you for listening.
We always are
watching, listening till the very bitter end with us. And if you do comment, we will read those comments and comment back.
We will.
And we love your comments and messages and all that kind of stuff. So please continue to do that. And and here, like we said in our last episode, Hiiro and I do intend to still send in our application for
The Amazing Race Canada season 10. Is it season 10?
I think it's season 10. Yeah. So that's still our intention when this one gets down to be in the same city as Mr. Prince soon enough. And so yeah, we'll keep you all posted on that.
Yes you will.
Yeah, so stay sane, listen to each other, be kind to yourselves. We love you.
Until next time.
Bye.